Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Berlin Select Board meeting for Monday, October 3rd, 2022. Let's see, disclaimer. Meetings of the Berlin Select Board are generally recorded for transmission on both the Berlin Cable Access channel and YouTube. Your voice, your image, and or your telephone number may be recorded. As we settle in and I kill the remaining 10 more seconds or so until it hits 7 o'clock. Welcome everybody. Look at that, I see the audience already growing. So let's see, at 7 o'clock, let's call this meeting to order and let's jump into approval of minutes. And
I can make the motion to approve the
Right.
September 26 minutes, but I will be abstaining.
Right.
Okay.
Is there a second, Peg?
Sure.
Let's see, Hawkins, aye.
Keith, abstain.
Stone eye.
Correspondence. Kristen.
Okay, let's see. I don't have any specific comments on anything that's in correspondence. I don't know if there are any questions or if anyone has any ads. I'm not sure. I meant to ask at the last meeting how you typically go through the correspondence, Scott.
We sometimes we mention the highlighted ones. And so I don't know if you want to, I have them in front of me as well, but we can start that Charter has announced they're going to raise, they have notified the town they're going to raise their rates for some of their packages by $4.01 a month starting. Actually, now we can say next month, November 1st.
Yes.
And again, this is all Charter, but there's not an approval or disapproval the select board can do. This is just a matter of they have to inform us of rate increases. And they have done that. And you'll post this out in a couple of places. Just, I mean, people should get notifications on their own if they're Charter customers.
Yes.
Mary already did. I think I saw it out on Town of Berlin today.
Mhm.
The assessors have sent a letter out to NRT about buses parked over at Solomon Pond Mall, and the ones that are in Berlin. Officially, we should be getting the personal property tax or vehicle tax on them. They're just confirming that the assessors confirming which ones are with us and which ones are with other towns. And so asking what it is, because she knows her letter that there's 7 that are officially in Berlin, but I'm also over there a bunch, and there are significantly more than that, I think, on Berlin property.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm going to leave the letter from Chief Clark, since he is going to be part of it. I was going to leave him to say that one when he does his presentation. Are there others that are? Because we have the police chief that can follow up on the one that's from him in our correspondence folder.
Sure.
I think
And the
that's
bucket truck, I'm sorry, the bucket truck I have under my TA report, so I'll address that there.
Yeah, and so I think that's fine for correspondence for now, unless the other select board members think others are worthy of noting now. I think anything else in there is actually coming up in other parts of the agenda. And of course, because I clicked around, are there general public comments? People can raise their hands if they have some, and then we could bring forward the chiefs to talk about the townwide radio project update.
Scott, I wanted to give a really brief overview on the radio project if I could, and have the chiefs jump in as well, if that works for you.
Sure. Before you do that, if Chief Clark, I know you had a letter and correspondence, but I thought it would best if it came from you, since it's your team that was commented on. If you want to say that, and then we'll jump into business.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. Good evening to everybody. I'm not going to talk much. You can hear the voice. So it's like my personnel were involved with a rescue on 495 mutual aid to Bolton on 8 June. Very challenging, down over a bank, multiple victims in a car. It all went well, but it was a much more difficult incident than you usually deal with. And it actually drove us to do some additional training with some low angle rescue ropes and purchase some equipment after the incident, so we're better prepared to do that if it happens again. But I was very pleased when the Bolton chief nominated them to the state, and the state's got to review all the awards requested it gets, and his was accepted, and 5 of our people will be recognized in November up in Worcester at Mechanics Hall. And Lieutenant Polino, Captain Alessi, firefighter Brewer, Durant, and Michelle DeVoe were the 5 personnel who got recommended and approved by the state. And they'll receive their awards from the governor, the lieutenant governor, and the fire marshal on that day. And it's a very proud moment for the Berlin Fire and EMS Department and for the town of Berlin, that they know that their personnel trained and ready to go when they need to go at certain incidents. So it's like, yep, I'm very proud of them. And they all said thank you to each and every one. And it's just one of the things that you have to be ready to do on a moment's notice any day of the week or any time of the day.
Yeah.
So it's like, no, thank you for recognizing them.
Yeah.
Job well done.
You'll have to tell them that the select board said congratulations.
Yes.
I will. Thank you, Chris.
Actually, it's great to know, because it's one thing to be trained, it's the other thing to know to do the right thing when it happens, as we see news stories all the time with people who don't, and to know that our team did exceptional stuff and is getting recognized statewide for their efforts is very great. It's very happy to have them on our teams.
Yep. I feel the same way, Scott. Thank you.
And then Kristen, so if we transition from that to radio towers.
Okay, so I've done a lot of research in trying to get up to speed and move the radio project forward, as I know this is a critical project for the town. So there's kind of been a process to get here, and where I picked up and kind of jumped in place was a new scope that was drafted in September to make sure that we had everyone on the same page in terms of the first part of the project, which would be for the replacement of the antennas at Coburn Road and Taylor Road. So using that scope, I was actually able to go and confirm through the state bid list, which is through Combis, that the services in that scope, which was very specific, are covered under a PSE01 state bid contract. And those services are provided, you can use that state contract provided the labor comes in at under $50,000. And the 3 quotes that were received to date, the labor ranges anywhere from about $8,000 to $12,000, depending on the cost. Now, one thing I did notice that I have to get updated, it looks like one of the quotes may not completely match the others in terms of whether the type of antenna, whether it's an omni or bio omni. So I'm learning new things. That's a little bit of minutia, but we're going to make sure we're all up to date to make sure everybody is bidding on apples to apples, or quoting rather on apples to apples. But the good news is that project, came in at around anywhere between 26 and 33,000, depending on the companies. I need to now sit down now that I have this all sorted out with both the chiefs, talk about the companies. All 3 that did give quotes are on this state bid list and are eligible for this project. The way the state bid list works is it gives a little bit more flexibility. You don't actually have to go with the low bidder. You can go with the company that you feel will be most responsive. Obviously, you don't want to spend extra money, which is understandable. But there may be perhaps a case for coordinating with Neshoba Valley Regional, because we want all of our systems to be in alignment. And I believe there could be a case to be made for having similar companies used in that case. And that's something I need to sit down and speak with both the chiefs about, because all 3 companies, were responsive and are qualified. So that is where we are at. I believe that we are ready to move forward. with that upfront piece, which is the antennas. I understand that $40,000 have been approved by capital for this piece of the project. And there are other parts that will come later in terms of filters, which I've learned are very expensive, and other components to the project, cabling, that need to have broader decisions made about exactly how we want to do those types of communications, whether you're looking at fiber optics or different wiring and things of that nature. So that's where I'm at. I don't know if the chiefs want to add anything or if the board has any questions.
Peg?
Kristen, can you check with Anna Crane? She's the head of capital. I think when Eric had gone to her, whenever he went to her, that she had some questions because paperwork wasn't filled out by Eric. It was the capital planning paperwork was not complete. So I think she said no. So
Oh,
can you
okay.
confirm that in fact they are a go and paperwork is in place?
I sure will.
Thank you kindly.
Yeah, that paperwork was followed up with that week.
Okay.
Great. I will confirm to you. I'll reach out and get a copy for my file.
And then does this 40,000 need additional approvals?
It does not. I just wanted to advise the board because there was some confusion about whether the state bid list could be used, whether it had to go out to a larger bid. There were concerns about looking at, if you wanted to do the entire project and it was coming in over 50,000, did it actually have to go out to a larger bid? And I did a tremendous amount of procurement research today. It's a little bit complicated when you have a labor project because basically, even though this isn't technically a construction project, it's mostly equipment. There is some labor involved, which actually pushes it out of the supplies and services type into what's called a Chapter 30B 39M, which is the public works part of the law. And that has a whole new set of requirements that are completely different from supplies and services. And in that piece, if you can use the state bid list unless the labor is over $50,000. The supplies can be over 50, but the labor cannot. So that was the research that I was doing today to make sure we were squared away there, and we are. So I needed to get up to speed. I wanted to touch base with the board to make sure there weren't any concerns on your end. Obviously, the capital approval is important, but as far as I'm concerned, the chiefs and I just need to determine, the best path forward.
Right. So
Kristen, where's the money coming from?
So this, my understanding is this is that the grant funding, chief, am I correct on that, for the grant that was given
No.
by the, nope,
I
wrong
don't
on
think
that.
I don't think it's a grant, but it came from Riverbridge. They would have had to put BDAs in all their buildings, which would have been just shy of $1 million. And they saved some money we had coverage with a few of the buildings covered. So instead of doing redundancy BDAs and all, it's a bidirectional antenna so that you can talk on a portable radio. Portable radio, it's a safety factor for firefighters and public safety personnel working in a building. That the buildings were close enough together where one and another building covered an additional building. So they're able to have a significant savings on their part, having them installed. And they made a donation, or if there's a different word the chief wants to use, that's fine. I think it was just 343 or 345,000 for public safety radio improvements to the town of Berlin for that. So it's like, then they turned around, sold the buildings and walked away. So they saved money in their pocket, and that's where we are today. And using that money to pay for the antenna replacement upgrade and for the repeater replacement upgrade.
And if I have to clarify, then we're really talking about breaking this into 3 projects. One is the fixing and replacing the antennas. One is the increased cabling, and one is the repeaters. And that this is the approval for the first of those 3 projects.
Yes, but my recommendation is that when we meet, and the chief and I and the TA, that we move the repeater part, because that's a critical component of it all. Each of the components is critical to the overall success of the whole thing. So it's like, yep.
Right. So I just want again, hearing that we're sort of doing it as 3 projects. One, because if it's one single project, that it then potentially becomes more complicated when it comes to trying to doing the procurement rules. Even though, again, all 3, I agree, all 3 of them are done. And the idea is that all 3 of them are going to be paid by that same pool of money that already exists from the donation that we got when the departments were able to save some construction funds.
Correct. So where
believe-
capital comes into play is capital has to approve by their bylaw, any item over a certain value that has a certain life span. So my understanding is they've approved the antenna part because that was the most critical piece to move forward with. So as we move towards the other phases, we would need to get appropriate approvals as well. So less about procurement. We're not trying to do bid splitting here. We're more trying to move forward with the immediate urgent need, which is to address the antennas and then to be able to get the rest of the project going.
It is 7:15, but is there a select board vote needed to or ready to be made to move forward with the antenna replacement? It sounds like you still needed to look at some other stuff because you don't know what contractor we're going to use yet.
Right. So under the state bid, basically what we would do is we would get a final price from them. And I imagine there would be, and Chief, it depends on the format of the contract, but we would come back with basically a quote that would need to be signed and executed. And my understanding is the town administrator has authority to sign under a certain dollar amount threshold. So I would be looking for authorization to move forward with the decided upon company.
Okay.
I
So
agree.
it's not really a vote yet until we're ready with the decided upon company. And
Is
then
that a
Chris-
motion?
No,
I can't make a motion.
No, I heard Scott. Was that a motion, Scott?
I thought I'm saying that they're not quite ready for a motion because they don't have a contractor yet. Is
Right.
that what I'm also hearing, Kristen?
No, the contractor actually, it's not going to be a formal contract because they're on the state bid list. They already have a contract with the state. So we're basically piggybacking off of the state's contract. So it's just a matter of selecting the company.
So I had a long day. So yes or no, you would like a vote from the select board right now?
I would love a vote from the select board. Yes.
Okay. Is there someone who'd like to make a motion?
Would a vote to support Kristen's recommendation to support the antennas suffice?
Yeah, I think it also, and authorizing her to sign the contract
Mhm.
up to $40,000 for the replacement of the antennas.
Okay, I would add that to my motion.
If I may clarify, it would likely be a purchase order since there is an existing contract.
Okay,
Second, the purchase order and the authorization for signature.
I think we're then ready to vote. Hawkins, aye.
Keith, aye.
Stone Eye.
Okay. Thank you, Chiefs. Chief Shartner, we'll see you in a little bit when we come back for your Chiefs report.
Right.
And then, Mayor, if you want to bring forward the assessors, so we can have our tax classification, and I think I can read the notice while they're all being brought forward. And so this is a public hearing notice. This was actually, I think, published in the various newspapers, but per Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40, Section 56, the Berlin Select Board shall hold a public hearing on Monday, October 3rd, 2022 at 7:15 p.m. At that time, the Select Board will meet jointly with the Board of Assessors to discuss and determine the certified valuation of each class of property, the minimum residential factor, the allocation of the tax burden among the 4 classes of real property, residential, open space, commercial and industrial, and personal property. The hearing will be held virtually on Zoom meeting platform with access to the following links that were in the advertisement. I bet I don't have to read the www. Interested citizens may present oral feedback at the hearing or may send written comments to the board before the hearing via email to selectmen@townofberlin.com or US mail at the address at town offices. Signed, the 3 select board members. And so I think that starts the hearing. At some point in the hearing, Kristen, actually, before, has there been emails submitted or commentary submitted?
I have
There's a
not
hand up
received.
in the audience.
Yeah, I think it's Molly.
I think that's Molly who wants.
It
me to move
is.
forward. Yep, yep.
It just,
Molly, I
Oh.
think you logged in on the town's Zoom account instead of coming in
Actually-
person.
I went through town, my town government, but
Yeah, you're logged in and in that it doesn't look like your camera is on at the moment.
No, because she's logged in as the town administrator Zoom account or the she's not coming in as an individual.
here, I'll log off and log back in.
Okay.
I'll take this moment to grab a drink of water.
Nice to see you, Roger, Bev, and neighbor
Yep.
Kevin.
Yes, nice to see everybody.
Hi, Chris. Hi, Scott.
Yes, hi. It's right, because Molly has like the PowerPoints too.
Yes.
Yeah, but she sent that out. We can always share it
know.
if we have
Yeah.
to.
I might even still have it up in one of my open tabs.
I've got it up if she is having issues.
Yeah.
It's like she's still there under Town of Berlin.
No, that one
Mm,
is
that's-
town administrator. I'm gonna change her name now.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
There we go.
Okay, hold on.
Motor.
Here she comes.
Yay. Hello.
So you opened the meeting, right?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Okay, so this is all very preliminary because we have got no approval from the Department of Revenue or anything. So I'm basically assuming that they're gonna approve my values. I just wanted to say that
Yep.
up ahead, so you're gonna have to continue the meeting. So,
Mhm.
you know, the introduction, the calculations for the tax rate and other tax rate numbers are estimated for this presentation. The valuation numbers are proposed until we're given approval. Like you said in your opening, chapter 40, section 56 allows for the classification hearing to go forward and allows the shift between residential, commercial, industrial, and personal property. This does not change the total tax levy as voted by town meeting. It simply determines the share borne by each class. The role of the assessors is to base the assessments on fair market value. For FY '23. We reviewed residential sales for calendar year 2021. And for commercial and industrial sales, we reviewed sales for calendar year 2021 and 2022. The assessors administer abatements, exemption, and excise, and they present this classification hearing to the select board. The classification does not determine the tax rate and only determines the distribution between tax classes. Tax levy is determined by town meeting appropriations and expenditures, state and county charges. The purpose of this hearing is for the board to adopt a classification policy. So that the difference is a uniform rate, everybody, it's just it's at one. Let's see, open space, the town meeting voted to accept chapter land as open space. So that's all that we have classified as open space. You can also vote on a residential exemption, but Berlin is mostly, I would say, 93% owner occupied. So we wouldn't be qualified to do that. And then you have voted a small commercial exemption at 10% for the last few years. So so residential side is the residential and open space, and then the commercial side is commercial, industrial, personal property. And on slide number 7, which is the FY23 preliminary values by class, that total taxable it needs to be changed. It should be 84219,937. So when we meet again, it will be correct. Okay. And
Molly, do you want to share your presentation or are you good just talking through it?
whichever you would like to do. I'm on my laptop. If I can't get
I
it,
got it.
Yeah.
I'll share. You tell me where to go in a nice way.
Right. Slide 7 and 8 are the key ones, that all the numbers that will be.
Hang on. Oh, where'd you go? Where'd you go? Here we go. Nope.
I
This
didn't- I
one.
should've-
Hang on. Never keep
Okay.
talking, Marley. I'll catch up with you.
So that what if scenario, I just basically took the total assessed value by the levy that was in the town report, or what town meeting warrant. I sometimes say the wrong book. So, and I can expand this for later. I can do it by one digit. I just did this by 5s for right now.
Yep.
So the FY 22, the split was at 1.49 and the residential rate was 1563. There it is.
Hey, stop looking. I don't want to send anyone into any like spins. All right, tell me where to stop, Molly.
So stop there. That 90, that number's wrong. It will be
Okay.
corrected for our next time. It's 846.
Okay.
I don't know where I got that number from. Sorry. And then the next one,
Right, so the number is right on this slide, the 846
Yes.
219, yeah.
correct, that's right. So this is I only broke this down by 5s.
Right.
So, so FY 22, the residential rate is 1563, and I know that I haven't talked to June in a while, but, well, I have talked to June, but it's not about tax rates. We usually
Right.
try to keep the tax rate level. So that would be around 1.45 or lower, somewhere between 145 and 150. I just thought I would let you know that overall, the average single family residence is going up 18%. The total residential, that's not there, no. This is just some interesting facts.
Yep.
I can tell you. The total residential value is going up 20%. So that's all the condos, all residential land, the apartments.
And-
Commercial is going down 5% because the mall, we had to lower the mall because their vacancy rate is just not doing well. They have a lot of vacant parcels, vacant storefronts.
And when you say that the residential has gone up by 18%, that is the total of all residential property. That's not that individual properties have gone up 18%.
The 18% is individual properties that were at the average value, that are at the average value. So if I take the total residential value by the number of houses,
Right,
that's my average single family assessment.
the average single family home did go up by 18%.
Yes.
Okay.
And the whole residential class went up 20%. People are buying houses. And the commercial is going down 5%. So that's going to be a little balancing act when we get to this percentage share issue.
Right.
The
Because it also means that
apart-
even if we kept the tax rate the same, some people would see, or many people would see an increase in their tax rates just because their property value, their value of their property would have gone up.
Correct.
Scott, great question. We just talked about this. And so the average house has gone up. If we kept the rate relatively the same, the average bill would go up about $1,500.
Right.
Okay, yep. Ballpark. Okay.
In the apartments, in the apartment category, that category is going up because the apartments are all built, mostly all rented. So we had some better data to bring those up to full value. So that's also bringing up the residential, excuse me, the total residential value going up because of that also. So that's it in a nutshell. I'll be able to do some of those comparison reports, comparison tables that I usually give you.
Yeah.
When you continue this to your whatever next meeting you're
So
gonna.
it does look like, Molly, when we continue to have the 1% gradients between 1.4 and 1.5, I think will help, because I agree. I think that's about where we're going to end up, somewhere in that
Yes.
range. And
Yep.
we were at 1.49 in the current fiscal year, correct?
Yes. Well, in fiscal 22. We're actually in
Yeah.
fiscal 23, sort of.
Yeah.
And I did put the small commercial exemption up there. There's only 29 parcels that qualify. And I did it at 10%. So,
That's the next slide, Peg.
nope, it's right on this
Oh,
slide.
sorry. I'm looking at my version of it on my screen as opposed to what Peg is
Oh.
showing. Sorry.
So well, I'm looking at it to the right. It says small commercial exemption. It's kind of behind the pictures of us.
Yep.
So that's all I have for right now.
And we've done the small commercial exemption for at least the last several years, right?
You've done it since. Yeah, you've done it for quite a number of years. It was actually, you were doing it prior to me coming here. And I
Okay.
came here in FY15.
Okay.
So you've been doing it before that.
Hey, Chris, sorry, I've been chatting. Do you have questions?
No,
No, I'll wait until she comes back with more detail.
right.
Oh, I lied. I do have one question. Molly, where are we with, let's say that your figures are correct. Where would we be in relation to the rest of the state? You know, I know at one point Berlin was rather low in taxes. So if we're going up, where does that now
I will
creep
have to,
us up to?
I will have to do
Okay.
that. I didn't do that yet because it will have to be based on FY22 because most of the towns around us are on quarterly billing.
Yeah.
So they won't be sending their bills out till December.
Okay,
But I
I
will get
appreciate that.
that information. Yes,
Do you have a
So-
time frame when you might hear-ish, maybe, kind of?
well, I think that Kristen told me your next meeting is October 17th. So if you can continue it till then, and I would hope that we would be further along.
Okay,
Right, and then we can touch base when we do agenda setting that Thursday. If it's not been set yet, we can push it out, or accept to no, because we have to do public notices, don't we?
No,
Well,
if
you
you
have to-
continue.
Go ahead.
Sorry. If you
Well, you have to
continue,
continue it to a date certain, right? That's what I'm sure that's
yes,
all I was about to say. A date and time certain right now. So the listening
Ticket.
audience knows exactly where it's moving to. So you want to set the 17th at 7:15?
you continue
Yes.
the hearing till, you do a motion to continue the hearing till the next.
I would entertain a motion to continue this until 7 o'clock on the 17th.
7
Maybe we'll
o'clock
start.
or
Yeah.
7:15?
7 o'clock, I'd like to start. We sadly bumped the Hirsch House from this meeting to the 17th because we wanted the time for this, and I don't want to bump them again. And so I'd like to start this at 7, thinking that they can still present by 7:30-ish or so.
So moved, Scott.
and seconded.
All in favor of continuing the hearing until October 17th at 7 o'clock? Hawkins, aye.
Keith, aye.
Stone Eye.
And I would assume that, should you not have the information, Molly, then we would just continue it again.
Yes, I would
All
just, I would let you know that ahead of time. And if you have any questions, please, email me, call me, let me know. Like I said, I'll put those other slides in where it compares different things when things are more written in, not stone, maybe marker.
It might not be knowable, and I don't know if it would make it would have any impact on my vote, but it would be, I'm at least curious to know if the average home value in Berlin went up because we added new properties that were above average that raised it, or if it was because the average value went up. In other words, if I'm an existing homeowner, did my property values really go up 20%? Or is the average go up just because we added a couple more $1 million or a dozen more $1 million plus mansions to this town?
No, could be value wise, but if you look at the sales report that I sent out, that's how the sales went. They were
Right.
all very under assessed for FY, you compare the FY 22 value against the sale price that took place in 2001. And it has the assessment to sale ratio on there, and they were very much under assessed. We did get a whole slew of new condos up at Highland Ridge. Is it Highland Ridge? Thank
Yeah.
you.
Mhm.
I get my Highlands confused. But they only started to sell it. There was 1 or 2 that sold in 21, and the rest are selling in 22. So
But those are average.
Those
Within
are
the average price range, aren't they?
well, I didn't do the average for condos. I just did the average for single family. I can do the
Right.
average for condos.
Well, I mean, they're not McMansions. They're,
No, they're condos 55 and older, but I mean, they're nicely built.
but I don't think they would drive up the price like Scott is talking about with average homes.
No, we actually haven't had Pollard. Those sold over $1 million. But Wilson, I don't believe is selling for $1
Yeah.
million.
Right.
And that's about it
Well,
for
I mean,
new construction.
people are buying homes for $30,000 over asking price.
Yes.
So they're just, the cost of a home is just going way up. It'll probably
And
go
they're-
back down again too.
And I was surprised when I looked at them, how many people paid cash for their sales in 2021.
Mm.
Yeah. Sadly, it was worse in 22, so.
Yeah, it's not just Berlin either, it's other towns too.
Yeah, I can go through Banker and Tradesman and see what the average for the state was also for 21.
Okay,
Okay. I think that's what we have for tonight. And do I have to, I don't declare the hearing closed because we didn't close it. We continued.
Correct, you just continued it.
right.
And you made the motion and everything, so you can just,
Yep.
we can say goodbye
Okay.
and let you get on with your business.
I know this, it's a simple spreadsheet, but it takes a lot of work to get to those numbers and the spreadsheets, and we really appreciate it.
No problem, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Molly. Thank you,
Thank
board.
you.
Thanks. Okay, I think we are ready to bring Chief Shartner back for his police report. I just have to find out where that went on my screen.
Hi, good evening again.
And again,
All right, so the month of August, the department handled 1,236 calls for service, 3 cases involving criminal charges, 16 motor vehicle crashes, 11 with injuries, 78 stops, 46 citations issued. September, department handled 939 calls, 9 cases including criminal charges, 15 motor vehicle crashes, 7 with injuries, 66 stops, and 37 citations issued. I'm happy to say that 2 more part-time officers have completed the Bridge Academy. I just have 1 more piece of paperwork to submit this week to certify their hours of working. They've met the 24-hour criteria to be certified, which I'm sure both of them have. I just have to go through the treasurer's office for that. Let's see, September, Sergeant Gooley and myself met with the school safety committee. We are finished up our plans for the school. And Sergeant Goulding's been active with the school since the opening, no issues other than a few busing issues, which is fantastic news for us and the school. Radios we already talked about. The drone unit still needs to be discussed with the select board. I did send you a copy of the policy and procedures that came from an accredited department. Those policies we should follow because we are on the path for accreditation through MPAC. So if you get a chance to review those policies, I think they'll answer a lot of questions that you have about the drones and the uses of them, and as far as the transparency and how much we have to actually log every flight that we take. Also, see, the month of September, Officer Corro attended 3-day intentional leadership class in Southbridge with Dean Chris, phenomenal leadership instructor, and also Officers Andre and Belleville completed last week a 5-day master leadership class at the Randolph facility. And I was able to do a 3-day training in Norwood for the Mass Chiefs of Police, which actually goes towards our in-service as well. They had some phenomenal training there that week. Myself as let's see, Traffic Safety Advisory Committee. We have a meeting this October 5th, this Wednesday at 5:30 to discuss the speed sign data with and without the stop signs on Carter and Highland Street. So we'll get more in depth about that, whether those stop signs are going to go back or if they're going to be taken out permanently.
Is that an in-person meeting, Eric?
Yeah, it is. It is. Are you going to be able to Zoom? Would you be able to do Zoom if we had a laptop there?
I would probably have to do Zoom. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we'll try to figure that out tomorrow. Try to get a Zoom link for that.
All right. If it doesn't work out, then maybe I'll just have you fill me in.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I got to notice that Tim's not going to be there either, so that we wouldn't have a quorum.
Okay.
Well, I actually, no, you're not a voting member, right?
No, I'm not.
So the quorum, yeah, I'm not even sure. Yeah. So I hope we have a quorum. What's in there? Mary was questionable as well. So. All right, let's see, our future officer, Jacob Russia will be starting the academy October 17th. We'll fill our second open vacancy. Officer Chris Ledoux is in there now, who will complete it December 28th. He'll be out and he'll be ready to hit the streets. He's already been working for us, so the field training has already been done for him, which is fantastic. And Jacob's looking at May 24th right now for a graduation date for us to be up to full staff. Our selection process for another part-time officer is concluded. Submitted a letter to Kristen recommending a person be appointed as the next part-time officer. I do have him scheduled for a physical and a psychological exam in the next couple of weeks. So we're hoping to get him up and rolling by the end of the month. He's a 34-year veteran, so his field training is going to be minimal. Our annual cell inspection was done. I believe I sent you guys the report. Once again, our hard water, our artesian wells don't do well with stainless steel, so I'm going to have to solicit the help of the DPW again to come in and grind out some of the corrosion, which isn't bad at all. I do have one person checking on cell number 3 that's been out of service for a year, an issue with the lavatory, and we're hoping it doesn't have to be completely replaced. We're hoping it's just a part, but it's finding companies that actually specifically do sell bathrooms. It's not your typical mechanism. So I'm hoping over the next couple of weeks to actually get a price on that to see if it is something simple or if it's something we're gonna have to go to town meeting for and get money. Our 2022 cruiser we ordered in May was canceled by Ford. And I also found out today their former chief's cruiser was also canceled. He called me today. But I was able to, at the meeting, the training / meeting I was at in Norwood, I was able to meet up with another company that provides cruisers. They have one. And I'm in the midst right now of actually building it and getting a final price on it. We're not going to go over budget. If I order a 2023, the hybrids are going up. If I order a 2023 today, the hybrid goes up $4,077 because we already had a 22 order. But if you didn't have a 22 order, our hybrids are going from $38,000 to $45,000 next year just for the car itself. So they're jumping up $7,000 for the hybrids. So I'm going to start looking at some other options as well, because now we're going to be looking at probably a $60,000 car outfitted, or $61,000 for a car just outfitted, which is, I mean, I joked the first cruiser I ever picked up, I had a check for $9,000 to Commonwealth Chevrolet, and you know, that was a few years ago, and I see that with the prices have gone up, it's exponential and almost out of reach for these cars. The Mass State Police Commercial Enforcement, also known as the truck team, was in town on September 29th. They conducted 7 stops on large trucks. They're all within weight limits, and I'm happy to report that all trucks passed.
Good.
Oh, and then for the budget, so I've had some increases, obviously, with overtime shifts, but from what since I typed this letter, we did another payroll. We actually almost leveled out on full-time wages. We're only up $6.55 from last year. When I initially looked at this, we're 2,000 over last year, but we had a couple slower weeks than we did last year. Part-time budget is actually down almost $2,700 from last year. So I'm not too concerned about that yet until Jacob starts the academy. We start paying Jacob his salary to be in the academy. I think we're going to be, I spoke with June about it and Kristen. I think we're going to be around 16,000 to 18,000 short in our budget this year because we didn't budget for 2 people to go to the police academy at the same time. We only had 1 budgeted. But then we had the officer leave in March that wasn't anticipated. So the other place where we had a major expenditure was in equipment and uniforms and also the academy fees. So far to date, we've expended $6,530.20 in FY23 towards academies. We have I just got another email with another $3,200 bill. So we'll be at $9,730.20 in FY23, and we're only budgeted for, I believe, for $3,200. So we're $6,500 over that. That's for uniforms and equipment. Fortunately, the Jacob wants to use his own MacBook. Usually we have to supply an iPad or a tablet, but he wants to use his own MacBook. So I'm looking into getting him Microsoft or Word document for it and Adobe, which is hopefully going to be around like about the $300 mark, so he can use his own MacBook instead of us supplying one. Any questions?
Eric, I don't recall getting the drones policy. Did it?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
It should come through with a packet that I sent up. I can resend it.
Oh, you know what? There were only 2 attachments.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I think I sent up 3 attachments to it.
Okay.
One of them was the policy. I can find that policy and
Okay.
get it sent up.
And the corrections for the cells.
Yes.
It's 21 days to get the correction plan done and back to them.
Yep. Yeah. So as soon as I talk to Freddie, I'm going to get the correction plan for cells 1 and 2. If cell 3 becomes a large financial issue, I spoke with the inspector. And I just said, well, just take it out of service until we have an annual town meeting.
Okay.
She didn't have an issue with that whatsoever. So I don't have an issue because we have Worcester County regional lockup now. So I don't have much of an issue with it. If it's going to be something outrageous, then we really got to take a look at it.
Okay. We'll let you know if
Three.
any possibilities of a fall town meeting.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I do anticipate that it's going to be a spring town meeting. Apparently, there's like 4 companies statewide that specialize or do sell bathrooms. So, when we only have one, I'm sure they're busy at larger facilities doing, dozens. So,
Okay.
Peg?
I have 3. So Eric, which one do you want? The hard one, the meaty one, or the easy one?
go with the hard first.
Hard one. It was part of our correspondence, the animal control reports. My brain probably, was on summer break. Haven't seen an animal control report in a very, very long time. And that is part of the current animal control officer's duties.
Yeah.
That she's supposed to provide a monthly report. We don't see one. They're incomplete. I know that, if you go out online, there's templates that are out there, Eric, for them to be completed. So you can't say, oh, I don't know what to put down. So I'm wondering what's being done to correct that issue, especially with the latest one that we received. There should have been many, many reports on that. And there's also the issue of training that the required classes have not been completed for years for that position. So what is the plan of action to A, fix the lack of reports, and B, fix the training that should be completed? And if neither are done, what's plan C?
So the reports, I do have some handwritten reports. Abby actually did include them she gathered some information for me. And I was the one who didn't get them up for, I know I have them for August. A letter was sent out last Friday addressing those issues. So I'm hoping to have a meeting quickly to identify and make sure that those goals are attainable of getting the hours done for training before December 31st of this year. And I've also been in contact with Kristen with it as well.
So you're saying that the responsibility is really falling back to Abby to transcribe the handwritten reports?
No. Actually, when they come in, she just counts the numbers. And she'll actually go into Citrix for me and look up the numbers, because it's a little bit more tedious to look up animal control because we don't have like an ACO incident. It will come in like aid to public, and then ACO is notified. So it takes a lot more the way they're logged. We don't have just an ACO complaint number where I can type in, ACO. Like I need to look in like actual logs and go through some logs to actually find the real numbers.
Yeah.
And there's some things that we don't even get told of. And then when we go back in the logs, like, oh, well, that call went directly to the ACO, it never went through the police department. And the show doesn't even notify us 90% of the time on ACO complaints. They just go straight out, so.
Yeah, because so I went poking around on the web because, well, that's what I like to do is poke around on the web. And there's a whole page devoted to training requirements for the animal control officer. And then when you scroll down, so here's a bunch of handouts and hey, here's some study guides. But then there's a bunch of forms down here. Dog bite, incident report, kennel inspection report, monthly activity report. If these are ones that have been agreed upon by the state, is this something that can start being used so that there's conformity, so there's never an issue of, oh, I forgot to include that, or whoops, I included too much of it?
Yep. Yeah, actually just printed out and stapled 12 packets together for that exact reason. I did contact, or I have been in contact with the state person who runs the ACO or is in charge of the animal control for the state. And they have sent me some information and letters as well. So definitely well aware of what's going on and trying to rectify that over the next week or two. And we need to find out if it is an attainable goal by December 31st.
So playing devil's advocate, if there is no attainable goal by December 31st, are you gonna work with Kristen? Kristen, I'm throwing you under the bus here. To potentially come up with like a plan B, because we don't want it to be like last time where we were basically down to like hours where we weren't going to have an ACO unless something was done.
Yeah. Actually, I sat in Kristen's office last week and we discussed that because they'll give us basically 12 weeks and we don't want to wait. We need to find a plan B quickly. And, obviously it's something we cannot go without.
Okay.
So can I just ask a question about the reports? I think the issue was that the ACO, I don't know if she didn't have a computer but
Right.
she would handwrite them.
That's correct. Yep, they do come in.
And I had no problem if, Abby was to just scan them in and send them to us.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
that was
fine.
actually one of the options as well, but we can't be doing these handwritten reports on paper. They have to actually be on the state forms. We need state forms. I mean, obviously, we are gearing ourselves towards accreditation for the state, as a state department. We can't have, we have to follow all the rules. And that's one rule that I discovered last week, is that each one of the reports are supposed to be on a state form, not handwritten on notepads.
Okay.
All right, so that was the hard one. Here's the medium one. A couple months ago, I think when you came to visit us, you had talked about backfilling the sergeant position with a temporary spot and then making plans to go forward with a full-time spot. And I know that you appointed Goody as the acting sergeant. So was just wondering what your plan was to either A, make it permanent, B, open it up, etc. Just kind of curious.
Yeah, so obviously, I'm the type of person who likes to gather many people together. I'd like a committee to decide on the next supervisor, not just necessarily my decision. So I do want to come up with a process. My process is going to be basically once every officer is in the academy, that we get one out in December, another one out in March. I would like to have a permanent position in there. Hopefully by May 1st. Everybody's been open to a lot of leadership classes. There's a lot of training. It's not that I don't care how much it costs to go. It's just that it makes every officer better in our department. We obviously don't want to have adequate supervisors. We want to have phenomenal supervisors, which comes with training. And there's some really core classes, like I mentioned, Officer Corvo went, Officer Belleville went, Officer Andre went, Officer Tragone signed up in a couple months to go to another week-long master leadership class. So I want everybody to have equal training and top training that they can possibly get to prepare for kind of an assessment board.
Okay. And then the last one, easy peasy. And actually, this was a result of running into Sergeant Goody. down at the Dunkins, no stereotype. And we were chatting and his body camera was like staring at me in the
Yeah.
face and it wasn't on, so we were just talking freely. So it's been a few months, probably more than a few months since this
1 year.
program was implemented and was just wondering if you could share with us feelings of the officers wearing them, if you've had any feedback from the residents of, oop, I'm not going to talk to, him or her because they could go dink and turn it on and, safety of all those messages. Just thought it would be a nice, hey, town, here's how we're doing, what's working, what's not working, changes we're going to make, etc.
Yeah, so I can say in the 13 months that we've had them, the first maybe month, we all had to retrain our brains to actually turn the thing on in our chests when we got out of the car. It's been nothing but positive feedback from the officers. Haven't heard anything negative from residents. Sometimes I get a little skittish, say, hey, is that thing on? And we can honestly say, no, it's not. Where a lot of agencies go with ones that record 24/7 when it's on, they have it on their body. They just bookmark every time they hit the power switch, they bookmark a video. But ours actually, the video starts once you turn it on. We're kind of fortunate with that. And I think they've worked out well. I see officers using them to make sure their reports are exact and they get, correct quotations. I can tell you last October when I had mine on, I had an OUI arrest and never went to court. Well, I went to court, never went to trial, all based on the video cam. So,
Nice.
I think they're advantageous. The town probably saved $1,800 in overtime for me to go to court over a case like that. But the only issue we're going to be looking at in the next couple of years is that we're not part of a cloud service. We have a server in the hallway that stores all the data. So, and I think it's quite large, the computer. I really need to find out the nuts and bolts of it, figure out how long it's really going to last us. I think it's 2 terabytes. But I think we need to figure out when we anticipate on filling up that computer, and we're going to have to get another one because that was a major cost of the cameras. The cameras are not expensive at all. The cost is the storage. I know the former chief, I was speaking with him, they're spending hundreds of dollars per officer for cloud storage. The monthly fees are absorbent for cloud storage. So yeah, that's next avenue. That's probably something we have to look at probably January, February to see. I think we're going to be all set, through the next 2 years, but we do definitely have to look at what we're going to do in the future.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate that with all that information. So thank you again.
Anything else?
No, I was going to ask about the ACO, but thank got me to it. So Chris, do you have any other questions?
No, I don't.
Good. Quite informative. Glad to hear there's things going on, and we'll through Kristen, we'll talk about what the right time is to come back and do the vote and discussion about drones.
Yeah, I like to, because there is a backlog on the ordering of that stuff.
Yep.
So, and then of course I have to line up training as well. I got to actually advertise the positions within the department, get people trained. But I will get those policy and procedures right up to you so that you can look at them. All right.
Awesome.
But before you go, if I could just jump to new business for a moment, I think the TA has a notice of anticipated appointment for a part-time police officer. Do you want to say anything about it, Chief or Kristen, and then we could do a vote while you're still here, or Chief Shartner?
Certainly, give me just a moment to move to it if you can. Let's see, here we go. So I did receive a request from the chief to make an appointment that is conditional on a physical exam and a psychological evaluation for Christopher Shea as a part-time reserve police officer. I have enclosed the recommendation from the chief along with a resume for your review. And this is a notice of anticipated appointment. I have reviewed everything and do recommend making the appointment. And I understand that the board has a couple of options that they can do. They can approve it within 14 days, disapprove within 14 days, or allow the 14 days to lapse, which would result in approval. So I don't know if Chief has anything else that he'd like to add.
Well, it's probably gonna take all of 14 days to get all the testing done. Chris is a 34-year veteran of the Hudson Police Department. He retired last February, misses the job, and wants to get back into it on a part-time basis. And looking forward to working shifts, and I think he'll be a great asset to the department. If Kristen forwards you his resume, I mean, he's pretty much done every aspect of the job over in Hudson, and will be a tremendous addition and a great mentor for a lot of people here.
Would there be a motion to approve the appointment?
So moved.
And seconded.
I think we could be ready to vote on it. Hawkins, aye.
Keefe, aye.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
We
Oh.
lost Peg.
Peg, wake
Hi,
up.
Carlos.
Bye.
You
Okay.
froze.
Hi,
You're back.
You were
Yeah.
frozen.
So I leaned. I went to take a note and I leaned on the
Yeah.
thing. I'm here, Stone Eye.
Yeah, okay.
Perfect.
Thank you, Chief.
All right, thank you.
Let's see, I think that brings us to a town administrator report.
It does. Okay. So this is the start of week 3. It feels like maybe like month 3. There's been a lot that's happened in the last week. I want to go over a couple of things in my report, and then the bulk of the time I want to just briefly go over some of the projects that I've culled from all of my meetings, give you an idea of things that are partially started. Heads up, and I'll give you another one when we get to it. It is not a complete list. It is just a list of things that I have identified as are ongoing, having already been started, or are very high priority projects. So, but to give you a brief update on a few other things first, the Highway Barn Solar Project and Meta Grant. The grant has been closed out, and we received confirmation from the state that funds will be wired to the town within 45 days. Those funds were used to pay for consulting services to negotiate the solar letter of intent with to negotiate the letter of intent with Select for the Highway Barn Solar. And I am recommending, in order to move this process forward to the full power purchase agreement, which is the next step, we want to either, and possibly both, apply for another Meta Grant in November, and or use Select Board consultant professional expenses to cover this expense, which may require a small reserve fund transfer, which I haven't said anything to June about yet. So surprise, June. But I'm hoping perhaps we could get another grant. My only concern is we didn't fully expend the last grant. Sometimes granting agencies don't look so favorably upon that, but they would not grant an extension. So I think we have a case to be made there as well. And the next steps of this agreement, now that we've executed a letter of intent with Select, is they will seek state incentive pricing for the project. And then what they will do is, once that's been approved, they will present proposed rates to the town. So there'll be a bit of a negotiation that goes back and forth there, and we'll enter into a power purchase agreement for the price of the solar, and also a pilot agreement or a payment in lieu of taxes agreement as well. So that is where we are at. The ball's in their court right now. They are seeking their state approvals for those incentives. And we hope to hear back from them as soon as the state moves, which is often not that quickly, but hopefully soon. I've also nailed down what's going on with the bucket truck. We do have it. And now we have an executed intermunicipal agreement with the town of Clinton. It was signed this week, actually today, by 2 of our board members, and it can be countersigned by Clinton at this point. We do have the truck. When it was delivered, unfortunately, there were some issues with the truck. The builder has come out and reviewed those issues. They are fully covered under warranty. They are in the process of being repaired, and I have spoken to Fred about it. That should be repaired shortly, and then it will be eligible for use. I did speak to June. We do have to establish at the next town meeting a revolving fund to share expenses with the town of Clinton for use of that truck. And that's something that will be forthcoming. Also, many thanks to Peg and Victoria Fuller, who wrote an $8,000 grant to the Mass Office of Disabilities for ADA improvements at several town buildings. That was submitted last week. Hugely helpful because I frankly would not have had time to do it. So thank you very much. Brief update on the River Run parcel 6B. As many of you may remember, in the agreement that the town has with Riverbridge, there's an option to purchase land known as parcel 6B over at the River Run development for $1. So I've reached out actually to the planning board, and I will be attending a meeting this month to determine the type of development that could take place on this site should the town choose to exercise their option. And there's also a well and what it would take from DEP to bring that well back online. I've actually heard back from the district director over at DEP. We were going to meet up this afternoon, but it didn't work. So we'll have a brief conversation soon on that. The developers have also presented a proposed lot plan, which would create a new lot called parcel 6C, which separates out the Boundless Adventures portion of the land over there. So I've also asked planning board if they could weigh in on that proposal. So it's literally just exploratory, as this is an option. And I think it's good to get some additional information on what our options are for that parcel and for the well. FinCom is meeting again. We are starting the budget process. They will be meeting on October 12th and October 17th, and we'll be setting the budget calendar and getting moving with that. And before I jump to my project list, I had one other item. MRI has reached out to me regarding the advertisement for the fire chief recruitment. And there seems to be a bit of a discrepancy on what was decided in terms of the salary range. And I wanted to ask the board what that decision was, or if one wasn't clearly decided upon, what it should be. The initial ad said 90 to 125. I had some feedback that perhaps that should be 90 to 120. I did receive an email back today from MRI that said, unfortunately, the market has changed. And I will tell you, it is an employees market, not an employer's market. And they are really not seeing a strong amount of applicants at that lower range. And I'm actually looking for his email right now. He says, given the current market, the salary range is low and will inhibit interest. Most towns of our size are 135 to 155. He just did a posting for a state college with a range of up to 120, and they got 5 marginally qualified candidates. So I wanted to share this with the board and get your feedback on this, because obviously time is of the essence with the chief retiring again, and we want to make sure that we can move this forward.
I'll go last.
Go ahead, Chris.
I was just going to say, I would change it from 90 to 100 as the low point, and 135.
Okay.
I think it should be a little bit higher than that, but I am fine with that number because I think my range overlaps fairly substantially with yours. So
Okay.
I'm fine with that number, Chris. Peg?
And as the dissident vote, I will not agree to that, because in the latest HR study that from a grant that we were able to get, we were told that Berlin for fire was 22.8% higher than the following towns. Air, Boxborough, Boylston, Hudson, Littleton, Maynard, Northborough, Paxton, Shirley, Sterling, Bolton, Harvard. So I have concerns that if at where we are currently, we're already 22, just do easy math, Peg likes easy math, we're already 23% higher. So if you're going higher, then this is where my brain goes. Please correct me if I'm wrong. If you do the salaries of building commissioner, fire chief, police chief, and you, Kristen, we are at almost $500,000. We're at $493 million, $493,000 for 4 salaries. If you increase the fire chief then I'm going to assume you're going to have to increase police. And then I'm going to assume that you're going to have to increase you, Kristen, with that. And this one, my question is, if we go ALS, then is this salary going to cover it? And, you know, Peg's 10th questions, who's going to finance to say, hey, we budgeted, you know, X amount of dollars currently for the fire chief, but oops, sorry, we need to jack it by, you know, $10,000 to $15,000. Can we have some more money?
I think the highest end of Chris's range is less than we're paying the current chief.
What's the highest, what was Chris's highest
Chris
range?
is 100 to 135, and I think our current chief is 150.
Correct. No. Chief Clark is not 150. He's not 150. He's lower.
But if you're starting at 100,000, it will depend on the education, the experience, and many other things. Doesn't mean you're going to go to the higher end. It depends on the candidate that you choose.
And I understand that. I very much understand that. But you know, with the previous presentation by Molly with people's tax rates that are going to go up, other things that are going up, and now all of a sudden you're going to ask the town to support, you know, potentially at least 3 more contracts to go up. That's a bit much, their range. And I would like to know, you know, when MRI said, you know, towns like you, I want to know what towns like us that they're talking about, because to me, that's just a very general, broad, you know, non-qualitative or actually non-quantitative statement that there's no fact behind it. It's just, hey, towns like you, you know, pay that money. So I am not in favor of their recommended increase at all.
Just for a frame of reference, I just pulled the FY23 budget. If I'm reading this correctly, and someone please jump in, maybe June, if I'm wrong, it looks like the chief is just shy of 129, 128,981.
Yeah, I thought he
Fire
was around
chief.
128. Yeah.
And I can't speak to the police chief. I haven't looked at a survey lately. I certainly think that, when does this study come out, Pam, that you were, oh my gosh, Peg, let me try that again.
Just call me anything. That's
I'm
fine.
sorry. I've been having
No,
a
don't worry
weird
about
issue
it.
with me. When did
It
the study
was,
come out?
I can get you the exact date, but it was a couple years ago. And I think personnel just wrapped it up as they were going through and trying to do COLAs and or increases. And I guess that's also a bug in my craw as well, is that we have employees currently in town that are either at minimum or maybe just below minimum, and we can't get them up to where they need to be, but yet we're willing to pay several tens of thousands of dollars more for a fire chief.
And so what would your solution be, Peg?
My solution is that we don't go with their recommendation of 135 to, what was it, 158 or something like that.
135 was my high number, was it
Right,
not?
right. Chris was suggesting 100 to 135, which was still below what MRI had suggested.
Right, and MRI suggested what, 135 to 158?
135 to
But we're
155.
not, we're not going with MRI's suggestion.
No, but Chris, I'm making a point. So they're saying that their low is 135 and our high, if we go with yours, is 135. So are they going to come back and continue to say, oh, I'm sorry, we're still going to get less candidates?
Well, we just might get less candidates.
It is
and I hate
a
to
fact of market
do
forces. We will
searches.
get less candidates. The question, will we still get a good enough candidate? And we obviously won't know until we see the candidates.
Right.
Right.
If I may just add a couple thoughts on that. One, anything pre-COVID is not incredibly valid right now because everything has changed since COVID. Cost of living has gone up. The market has changed. There is a much larger availability of positions. If you look on MMA right now, you have a wide availability of positions open in every community. So you have to consider that piece of it. I also don't think that you have to do a salary adjustment for other positions just because you're bringing somebody in that's new. And I thought I had understood that when you guys did the class and comp plan that you had done adjustments for employees that were out of market range that were on the lower end. So my recommendation would be, in conjunction with this, to take a look at adjusting that class and comp plan again, if it's been 2 or 3 years, in light of what the given market circumstances are now.
Yeah, Kristen, some were done. You know, there
Okay.
were some increases, but it wasn't increases across the board. I still think that 135 is too high. The highest I will go is 130.
I'm gonna stick with the 135. 100 to 135. It doesn't mean you're gonna go with the highest, unless the person is qualified or overqualified.
Yeah, I'm in this sort of inclined to agree with Chris. I think I hear you, Peg, and I think when we have a real candidate and a real person, we can discuss what we think that person is worth. And it might be below the reason we have a range is that we don't necessarily want to pay the top end of the range. I think we're all quite happy to have someone at 110 or 120 and I think there might be qualified candidates at it. I'd like the ad still to say, this could end up being a 2 to 1, but I think having an ad from 100 to 135, and we'll see who we get.
So I'm assuming you need a vote?
Yes.
I think we should do a vote that gives Kristen the clearest sort of direction. And so, Chris, do you want to make the motion?
Sure. I would support a range in salary for the next fire chief to be between 100 and 135,000.
I will second that. And I think we've had our discussion, so we're ready for the vote. So I'll do Hawkins, aye.
Keefe, aye.
Stone, no.
Yep. Okay, you have that, Kristen. Do you want to go on, Kristen, to the list of projects?
Oh,
Okay.
I have a question, Kristen, while you're talking about fire chief.
Yes.
Did you and or June, I don't know who might have met with finance, where is the money coming from to pay MRI's bill?
So we did meet with finance last week, and the plan that was discussed was to pay it out. There's there's 2 payments that have to be made.
Mhm.
So the first payment is due this fall. It will be about 6 and change, and that would come out of the selectmen's professional expenses. And then we would likely have to do some type of reserve fund transfer in the spring. And we did already mention that to them because, unfortunately, this was not a budgeted expense.
Okay, thanks.
So on our project list, and I'll try to keep it as short as I can, I didn't put any of these in a super specific order, except for the first 5 were items that really jumped right out at me, 3 of which we've already discussed, which are the radio project, the bucket truck grant, and the budget. Obviously, that's going to take up a tremendous amount of time this fall, and that's huge. I want a little bit of guidance from the board as to how to move forward with FY22 reviews, because obviously I wasn't here, so it would be challenging for me to review department heads, and I think it would be partial to just have department heads review their employees. But we can discuss that a little bit. That hasn't been done yet. I also have a partially drafted IFB for road materials and services for highway that we need to get out so that they can do work in the spring, hoping to do it this fall, but that didn't happen. So we want to make sure we get on everybody's agendas and schedules for the spring. Obviously, we still have negotiations ongoing with the police union. We have decisions to be made at River Run. We are working on the payroll accrual project that we spoke about with Dennis at the last meeting. Highways working on some basic mitigation measures over at Legion Hall just to clean up the mold. I think Fred said it involved working on a couple of walls. He was trying to just make it so that what was there is cleaned and it doesn't get any worse going forward. I think something that's really critical is speaking of Fred, getting him an admin. He does not have one right now. So he is trying to do all of this procurement, payroll, process bills, hire people, and he's down 2 people. So I actually have given him a draft job description, one that I've begged, borrowed, and stolen, that hopefully we can update and try to get him some help. And we're also doing interviews later on this week for 2 of the positions that he has open. Then ARPA obviously needs to get discussed. I haven't had a chance to dive into it, but I understand there is a list that has been started. There have been discussions. And the meeting room camera, I know we tried hybrid. It really doesn't work without having the proper equipment because of sound. You really also want it to be shown on a television so that those in the room can see those in the audience. And you really do have to have a camera that kind of looks at the room too. So it's kind of a 2-way thing. I understand from meeting with Roger that it did go over budget. I need to look at it. There's a couple different things you could do, whether it's seeing what the project is, if one of his equipment, one of its wiring, or part of its equipment rather, and part of its wiring, if all of it needs to be done right now, if there's certain amounts that can be done just to basically get things up to date for the immediate needs, as I think hybrid perhaps is going to be the wave of the future. And those are kind of the immediate projects that I see. Do you want me to pause there before I go into short term, or do you want me to go through the short term ones as well?
Well, we have the list.
You have the list in front of you.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have the list in front of me. I don't know about Peg and Scott, but.
So why don't I just really quickly for the public, just give some of the short-term ones that have been identified. And then you can ask questions. Does that work?
Sure.
Website updates, which are ongoing, and we want to maintain the website better for communications. I actually think municipal offices roof and the fire station roof need to be moved up to the immediate projects. I think that now that I understand that a little bit better, that is a strong need when we have leaking situations, which I did not realize was the case and now do. We need to get a new audit firm, or at least put an RFP out. It is time for that. Recreation courts to be redone. We're looking at a solar pilot agreement, an air handler for municipal offices to be replaced, a facilities assessment. The highway barn solar project, which we mentioned, is on hold at the moment because it's in the court of the contractor. So that's kind of on hold, which is good. Then there's some, human resource functions, including personnel forms, job applications, looking at policies, organizational charts, things of that nature. And some of these are called from a list that Margaret had left me, in addition to those meetings that I've had with boards, committees, and personnel. There is a Berlin Memorial School lease agreement that I understand has been drafted, but I haven't had a chance to review. And finally, the all important topic of funding plan for retiree benefits. And again, I will add, this is not a complete list. These are just the items that really kind of rose up that I was able to capture from Margaret and the time she spent with me, the list she left me in those meetings that I've had.
You get quite a list there.
Yep.
It's a lot. I'm not going to lie.
It is.
And not everything can be done at once, and not everybody's going to be happy. I mean, that's the reality of it. So some guidance, I think, from the board, if I'm on the right track, if there's something I'm missing that should be higher priority, would be really helpful.
Did you take a look at the employee annual review itself, Kristen?
Not yet.
Okay. I mean, that's what I assume that they've been using for the department heads using for their employees.
Yep.
So, and maybe just discuss with them whether they think that form works.
Okay. I do have an email from last year when it went out, and I haven't had a chance to look at it, but I do know I do have the form. So
you might actually be able to say, I think I could do better than this.
I'm certainly happy to take a look at it.
We've used it, for a few years now.
Sure.
And I think even for the people who directly report to you, the department heads, you have sort of what last year they said their goals on. I think you could have a conversation with them. You might not have objective, like from personal experience, whether or not they're completed or not completed, but I think we have some good department heads who wouldn't,
They'll tell you They'll
Yeah,
tell you.
they'll tell you, right. And
look
I
around.
think that working with them, you know, you can come up with goals for the coming year. I think it does require a little bit more, you know, trust and faith than it might be had you been here, you know, multiple years. But I also think, again, we have good department heads who are valuable, and I have the faith would give you correct information to make that done well.
The one caveat I would ask is that if there were other urgent projects that came up that resulted in them not being able to complete those goals, that be taken into consideration as well.
I think when you do the annual review of what we're planning to do 10 things for the coming year, we all, you know, things come up and change, something becomes bigger than was planned, something becomes easier than was planned, and they get more done. I don't think your did you do great or did you do poorly is based on whether or not you did the 10 things you thought you were going to do a year ago. And it's just generally, are you providing good value to the town? Because I also don't want someone to realize, like, I'm in IT, that happens all the time. A project I thought I was going to do 6 months from now, when I got there, is a horrible idea to do it. And I don't want to be penalized because I did realize it was a horrible idea and canceled it when it comes to my review a year from now. You know, I think it would be a good thing to recognize that the world has changed. And
Sure.
Yeah.
So we're having a dialogue about it. I just, sometimes people are very factual and literal with goals, and I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah.
Kristen, there's 2 you can add, going through my notes on your not critical list, just so that you don't lose sight of them. There
Sure.
was an issue, they're both for the transfer station.
Yep.
The first one was an issue brought up by Paul McKelk regarding safety, that sometimes the cell phone is not really that reliable over there. So he was looking to talk to Charter about bringing a wire into the little building that the guys sit in. So I don't know where he is with that. And there was also an issue, I know you haven't been to the dump yet, but
Friday.
there's bins, you know, that people put their trash in, and probably about less than 5 feet in front of the bins. There's like the pavement starting to wash away. So for a while they covered up with a board, but I think Highway came in and filled it, but you're still going to have that runoff problem. So I don't know where that one is.
Okay.
It's probably a Board of Health thing. But just so you don't lose track of, hey, what about my project 6 months later?
Sure. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I betcha.
Chris, I have several that I think are missing, not as critical stuff, but big projects that we don't want to lose track of. But Chris, do you have others?
I'm sure there are others. I just did not want to overwhelm.
Right.
And
That's my nervous sense of it. But so I'll at least share just a couple then at least. We have a bridge on South Street that will need to be replaced. That we got a grant to at least go to the next phase of. I think it is in Fred's to-do list, but that is a multi-year, multi-million-dollar project that should be at least regularly thought of.
Okay.
We've had with CMRP some Highway 62 study stuff and how to sort of
Yes.
improve the center of town that should not be forgotten about. And somewhere out there in the world is the idea of combining our earthworks bylaw and our like-kind soil bylaw into something that is way more comprehensive and easier for both the people of us who are trying to enforce it and the people who would like to follow it and get stuff done. There is a strong, I think it's safe to say there's a strong bias against bringing a lot of soil into town. And so even I raised at one point whether or not we could even have a rule that says we don't bring in soil. And the answer to that question is no. But ways of sort of limiting it, maybe like X number of cubic feet per acre or something like that, that stops a project from sort of radically redesigning the landscaping of the town. And those are the ones at least I've heard of. The rest, I think.
what about the Bullard House?
Oh, that's in my miscellaneous items part of the report
Okay.
that I didn't
I
get
think she's
to.
doing a tour with Barry. She's going to get an historical commission.
Special tour on Friday, so stay tuned.
All right.
But I appreciate that, Scott. And I should say that both the South Street Bridge and the Center Study, I have spoken to Tim Wheeler about the Center Study and Fred about the bridge. The reason I didn't have them on my radar was I was more doing things that I had something to do. But yes, those should certainly be on the list of projects.
And correctly, they don't fall under immediate crisis project nor short-term projects. And so
But
as you're
they should be on the radar.
it's like, you know, not at week 3, but week 4, 5, or 6, they know there's a longer term projects that we're gently guiding in the correct direction.
Absolutely. And that earthwork soils bylaw is on the draft list of items for the next town meeting. So that one's captured there.
Actually, Kristen too, Margaret had mentioned that the town of Middleborough, city of Middleborough, I think they're a town, that they did something where it's not an actual bylaw. June knows, and I can dig it up as well. But it was the Board of Health that put something out there that didn't require a town vote for that. So let me dig that information for you and I can send it over, but at least you've got a little bit more tell to the story.
Great. Okay.
And then generally, not just on the project list, are there other questions or comments for Kristen?
I can give you my miscellaneous items quickly, which I forgot were on the bottom of this page. So yes, very eager. Many thanks. Took me on a historic tour of Berlin, including all 3 cemeteries, the 1870 town hall, and the curatorial building. Next week, Bullard, or rather this week, Bullard House, because that deserved some time in and of itself that we didn't have. We did meet with Harper's on the payroll accruals on Friday and got some clarification there. And it looks like we are moving forward with the process of calculating those and adding them to pay stubs. We're on a good path now. So I hope that everything is going well with that. I'm also working on a grant. Maya, our insurance company, puts out a risk management grant every year where you literally have to check a box and attach a quote. It's about the easiest grant that you can apply for. And I sent it out to the 2 chiefs and Fred. Oh, did you lose me?
Oh, sorry, go ahead. I was
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you lost me. And Chief already pointed out something with cameras that I need to look at. And Highway gave me a few items that were on the list that they could use. So I'm going to cull that information together. I'm going to send it over to our insurance rep to make sure they are qualifying projects rather. And that will hopefully get us some funding for some other small things very easily. And then 2 other little things. There is a tarp over the leaking portion of the roof at the old fire station while we work on the roof replacement. And we are working, apparently the motion sensor is not working today, but we figured out why. There's a motion sensor on the part of the hallway when you walk in on the 2nd floor now, so that folks aren't walking in the dark. I noticed folks shuffling into a Board of Health meeting in the dark, and I was really concerned about people falling. So I spoke with Fred and asked if there was a possibility of switching that around. The light was in one of the offices. So, you know, at night, there was no way to access that light switch. So that has been taken care of. I always worry about liability and people getting hurt. So that's that. And it's a lot of information, but
Yes. Chris, Peg, do you have other questions, comments? Good. Well, thank you very much. That's a nice report. And then the reports you write, they're available on the town website for residents to look at as well?
yes, on the town administrator page of the townofberlin.com website, there is a tab for town administrator reports.
Great. Old business. We wanted just an update on sort of the payments, what payments we received from Riverbridge for the public safety and violence adventures, you know, those sort of things. Is there an update on payments we've received?
Yep, so we did receive the monthly payment that we're supposed to receive, and Chris may be able to speak to this a little bit better than I am. We are getting that is it 5,000 and change every month, Chris?
16,000?
16, I'm sorry, I was way off.
Yeah, the 16,000 a month, which will catch them up when they make a little bit larger payment in November. for their public safety obligation to the town. And that will catch them up for even, I believe, the November payment, because that's when the payments come due.
Yeah,
Um,
just looking for that email.
And then the next old business we had was the Rockwell Apartments rent increase, but I was expecting sort of a chart from them to show sort of the what the rate would be, because I thought we were looking at like a 5% increase for existing tenants and allowing them the 6 and 10 for new tenants. And I don't remember receiving it. So I'm reluctant to vote on it tonight if I've not received the chart they promised us.
I did not receive anything. Mary, did you receive anything?
No, I have not.
Okay,
So
so
is there a deadline for this? Do you know, anybody?
I don't think they can raise the rents until we approve it. So,
Right.
They have not stated a date.
right.
Okay,
So
And
I
they
think they
were-
have incentive to get this to us. And we will act at the next select board meeting when we get the information.
well, I mean, I guess I thought a deadline from DHCD for this to be done, is there like a year, 12-month period where, then you have to have things approved before a certain time?
That
If-
was not specifically said at the last meeting, and they did appear in person, Chris, and we did ask them, could you come to the next meeting, with that chart of information, and they agreed. So I'm not really certain what happened, but we can,
Right, and I told him he didn't necessarily need to, because I expected to receive the charts, since we agreed
right.
everything in principle, that he wouldn't have to be at this meeting, because we just say, oh, this chart looks good, yes, let's approve it. But without the chart, there's nothing to approve. So I
Yeah.
don't know if it's worth Mary Kristen reaching back out to him to like, boy, the select board would have voted, but we didn't have the chart. Could you send that to us so that we can vote on something?
Sure, we can do that.
So what the chart was going to be, what, a 5% increase, you said?
5% it goes for existing tenants and
Right.
the 6 and 10 for new tenants.
6% and 10%?
For 6% for the 50% of household and 10% for 80% of it, of median household.
Okay,
And so vote to approve the disclosure for Julie Lee, fiscal disclosure, so that she can be that special municipal employee and do some work for the rec committee. Obviously, she wouldn't vote on whether or not she could be hired for something, but when they do an event, that she could be one of the people who does it. I think it's because she's a yoga instructor.
She
Right.
is. So I had a conversation with Julie, and we discussed sort of the payment process and how that would work. They're actually going to be town recreation activities. And the way that would work is she, by becoming a special municipal employee and filing a disclosure, is able to contract essentially with the town to offer these classes. I have reached out to the treasurer to see if we can set up something through Unipay like we do for taxes or licenses, where folks could directly pay for those classes online. Otherwise, it would be a check or cash to the town of Berlin, and then Julie would be paid through the town. So that way everything goes through the books. It's all there for an audit, and she has agreed to that.
okay, so I did speak with Kristen this afternoon, and I did mention that Sandra had also emailed me and asked what should I do if I have suggestions for the 1870 policy? This is just to inform you. And I told her to contact Kristen, let her know what changes, and then Kristen could bring it to the board. Just as an FYI.
Yeah.
Right.
So I can make the motion to approve Julie Lee from Recreation, approve her municipal disclosure.
I'll second it.
I don't know if this needs any more discussion. So Hawkins, aye.
Key 5.
Stone Eye.
Great. on to new business. Approve for board signature the November 8th, 2022 state election warrant for public posting by the constable, which is always one of my fun ones, like that if we say no to the state election, it just doesn't happen, but no.
Don't
it's just-
upset the town clerk.
Right. Some of the things we just have to do. And so,
So moved.
And seconded.
Hawkins, aye.
Keith, aye.
Stone Eye.
And just to be clear, do all three of us need to sign it or just a majority?
Just
Um,
a
just
majority.
two. Yep,
Just a majority, okay, because Peg and I have both signed at this point.
well, yes, so
Okay.
good to go.
Yep. Kristen, back to you. Potential for a fall special town meeting.
Okay, so I did come across a list of placeholders for the next special or annual town meeting that Margaret had started. And I know that it came up at the coffee talk, that the community garden fence needs CPA funding, but I believe they said they could wait until a spring town meeting. And looking over these other potential items, I don't honestly see anything at this point that requires a fall town meeting. I can go through them if you'd like. You have them in front of you, or you can ask questions, but unless I'm missing something, these could all go in the spring.
I think they all look like something that go in the spring. I don't see anything there that like would be detrimental to the project that didn't happen this fall.
The only one that I would just need to, I want to double check on, there's this historical commission grants. They need a preservation restriction on the Bullard House to get the grant. There, June did mention that required a town meeting vote. I don't know if that, now that I think about it, has to be obtained prior to applying for the grant or before they can move forward with the project. So I can double check on that one.
Kristen, do you know off the top of your head what the cost is if we did have to have a special town election? I'm sure there's a cost associated with it. Is it huge, medium, gigantic?
Well, I
Special
can tell
election?
you, it's a special town meeting.
Special town meeting.
Well, the first thing I was going to say is it's a tremendous amount of work and there's a significant amount of lead time you have going up to it. But Mary let me know today that apparently here you have to mail the warrant to all of
By
the
bylaw, yes. by
residents
bylaw.
by bylaw. Mary, do you have a rough estimate on cost at all on that?
Like, depends on the number of pages. It could be $2,000 to $3,000 for the printing and mailing.
Okay.
I mean,
Right.
for me,
I
it's
just
the-
didn't know if there was a cost associated with having highways set up, contacting VMS, police, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Town clerk has to have checkers.
Yep.
Right, not only that, but I think when we have the town clerk also has to have hours that people have to register to vote.
Yeah.
And other stuff. I mean, I think it is not as much a checks we write for it as much as the amount of time it takes from existing and town employees.
Mhm.
It is really significant. There are a lot of, things that happen behind the scenes that take a substantial amount of time. And I would hate to go through it for, just one or two items,
Yeah.
to be honest, if they can wait.
Mhm.
Right, because I think it's the reverse. If we had something that absolutely had to happen in the fall, I think we would then try to find things to take off the May town meeting to make it go faster, but I wouldn't have a meeting just for the sake of
Mm-mm.
that. So I agree. I don't think there's anything right now that looks like it requires a special fall town meeting.
Okay.
On this list. Correct.
Yes.
And that's everything that I've collected. I did also have Mary and June take a quick look at the list just to see if anything jumped out at them. So that's kind of everything I've called together.
I think that brings us to board's questions, comments, and liaison updates. I'll start with something that's not sort of commission related, is our upcoming meeting schedule. On the jumping out a little bit, on Monday, the 24th of October, both Kristen and I are away. We could still meet, but that you would be without sort of either one of the two of us. And before you comment on whether or not that means we should have a meeting or night, the following Monday, of course, is Halloween night, which is a night that we might want to be interacting with our neighbors and neighborhood kids and other stuff, and not spending
Kids.
a serious chunk of grandkids, yes, a serious chunk of our valuable trick-or-treating time and socializing and community building time at a select board meeting. Right now, as the calendar sets, we do not have a meeting next week. And so we could decide to add, it's not too late to add a meeting for next Tuesday, because we could not meet Monday because of the holiday. But we could meet next Tuesday. We will obviously, I think, definitely meet on the 17th. And so I think the moving questions are the 31st, the 24th, and the 11th. And what people feel would be appropriate for a meeting cadence during that time period.
There is a planning board meeting on the 11th, which I thought Kristen may be planning to go to.
Yes. Thank you for reminding me of the date. I knew it was coming up, but I didn't remember which day it was.
I have it on my calendar too. And
The other thing is, I think about the 11th as well. I don't know that we'd have much for a meeting unless something, now I'm going to knock on wood, because unless something explodes.
yeah. So, and the 17th is still good, correct?
Yeah, 17th is good. The 17th is, we already have the continuation of the tax hearing. Chief Clark is up for his presentation. The Hearst House Building Committee would like to do a presentation, which was scheduled for tonight, but I knew it was going to be a long enough meeting, so I already pushed them out to the 17th. I'd be reluctant to push them out again. And then the stuff that's listed right now on the draft agenda for old business and even new business are all placeholders. None of those are actually really ready for, at this point in time, ready to say they're definitely on the agenda and have to happen that night.
Right.
So why not move out the 31st to November 1st if you want to have a meeting that week?
We could.
And I don't know.
So to skip the 24th and meet on the 1st?
Yeah, that sounds good. Unless there's something that absolutely, needs to be taken care of on the 24th, which Peg and I can take care of.
Right. The 24th, the draft agenda on the 24th is actually currently blank. I don't even have like placeholders in place at this point. And so I was expecting some of the things on the 17th wouldn't be ready for the 17th, but if they're not ready for the 17th, the odds that they'd be ready 7 days later, pushing about 2 weeks is not going to hurt any one of those.
Right. Even if it's the vote on the Rockwell, that will just have to wait until the following meeting.
Yep.
Does that sound
All right.
like a
So
plan?
no meeting the week of the 10th. We are
Right.
meeting on the 17th.
Right.
No meeting the week of the 24th, and we're moving the 31st to November 1st.
Correct.
Okay.
June has her hand up. So we want to make sure we don't mess up like money stuff. Yes, June.
Hi,
Yep.
I just wanted to make sure that we may have to have a meeting if we don't set the tax rate classification hearing so that we can actually get the tax bills done. That would be the only thing that might pop up in there. Fingers crossed we can have it for you at the next meeting, but that would be the only thing that would be a urgent type thing.
Would it
Right.
be, if it wasn't done on the 17th, could it be done on the 20? No.
No, it's not done on the 17th. It's not done till November 1st.
Okay. And what's the date by which it has to be set, June?
Well, normally we try to get it done by October 1st because the tax bills are due the 1st, so it's 30 days. So it would be, everybody would be getting tax bills for Christmas.
Oops.
Yay!
So we'll try really, really hard to get it done by the 17th, but that might be the only thing we may have to ask for a meeting.
And
Okay.
it could be on the 17th, we do a continuation of the 24th and we at least have a deep enough conversation that it can be a one issue meeting that doesn't hopefully take
Yep.
super long.
Yep. Thank you.
So I think
And
we might
Kristen,
hold
you're
off.
not here when? I know you told me and I've forgotten it's been 2 hours.
The 22nd through the 27th. I will be back on Friday, the 28th. So I'm just missing 4 days, the 24th, the 25th, the 26th, and the 27th, 4 work days. I may be in a different time zone on Friday, but I will be physically here.
And then Chris, for Tuesday, the November 1st, you would have to run the meeting. I'm still not in town, but that's not a reason to not have the meeting.
Okay. What date do you get back, Scott?
I get back the 5th of November. So
Oh.
I'm out of country 2 weeks.
Wow.
No,
Hope it's exciting. I hope it's
I'm counting the hours. So sorry, Peg, Chris, do you have questions, comments, liaison updates?
I do have one liaison update.
Go for it.
Council on Aging, September 27th.
Mm.
Victoria now has a social services office in public safety. Yoga will start after Columbus Day. The van is running 5 days a week. It's doing shuttles to Northborough Crossing and the Apex Center alternatively every other week. The Powderhouse News deadlines are October 21st and December 20th before changing to Clinton Offset. They're with another company right now and they're ending that with them. Council on Aging is looking for sponsors for the Powderhouse News. Names would be listed in the Powderhouse News, but no advertisements per the Clinton the Clinton Offset policy. Council on Aging and Seniors will co-sponsor the Twinkle Tour again this year.
Yay.
And there will be a grab and go the last Wednesday in October with a choice of chicken and broccoli bow ties, scrod, or eggplant parm. And they are going to do the sand and salt buckets again. They will be distributed. I think they're getting them donated from Lowe's, or if people have buckets from last year, they'll just fill them up. And this would be with up to 50 new participants. Next meeting is October 25th at 4 p.m. That's it.
Yep. Peg.
I had the one from Concom, but that was 2 weeks ago, and well, we're meeting on Wednesday, so I'll just wait.
It occurred to me as we were doing these updates, we did forget one announcement early on that I want to just add to this section, that the Berlin Fire and EMS departments are doing an open house on Sunday, October 16th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Everyone is kindly to go down to the fire department and check everything out. And I would hold this off to our next meeting, except our next meeting is the following day. That's less timely of an announcement at that point. So
yeah, I was gonna bring it up to Chief Clark to see if he wanted to mention it, but then I forgot.
Yep, I did too. That's why I didn't say it early on announcements, because I was like, I have it on my piece of paper, Peg. See, I keep pieces of paper too.
There you go.
And I don't know where my brain was at that point. So yes, the EMS Fire Department open house again, Sunday the 16th, down over at town offices, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Yep.
Chris, the listing that you gave for the grab and go meals, they're different than what Victoria posted online.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's stuffed shells. She posted it, I don't know, about 5 hours ago.
Okay.
Stuffed shells with mixed vegetables, roll and dessert, baked scrod with mixed vegetables, rice pilaf, roll and a dessert, and pulled pork with bread, mixed vegetables, rice pilaf, and dessert. Cutoff for ordering is October 18th at 5 p.m. Donation of $5.
And this is on the website too?
Yeah, well, it's on the Council on Aging one, right? Shaboom, right here.
Oh, on Berlin Neighbors Connect.
Yeah, it's on, yeah, it started on Berlin Council on Aging and then moved over to Berlin Neighbors Connect. But yeah,
Okay.
so here's the menu.
Okay. Well, maybe after talking with the chef du jour, that they changed their minds.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted folks to know that, you know,
Yeah.
what they were gonna get.
Well, good. Thank you.
I believe we have an executive session tonight.
Oh, boy.
We have executive session fall under two different sections. One is to discuss strategy with respect to litigation. Officially, it's Maplewood 5, but it's mostly just to review the agreement. Kristen is new. It is something that comes up every now and then, and a chance just to go over the agreement. And then 6 is to consider reason 6, which is to consider the purchase and exchange of lease and value of real property. This was alluded to earlier in the meeting with River Run, the town's right of first refusal, and negotiations of the real property that is up there. And so if there could be we will return to general session only to adjourn. And so is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
And seconded.
So we will vote. Hawkins, aye.
Keith, bye.
Stone Eye.